Video number 3. So you know how in the last video I said I wouldn't only be making Little Nightmares content? Well, here's some more Little Nightmares content. I don't know, it's just what's on my mind right now. Today, I'm gonna be ranking all the enemies in all 3 of the Little Nightmares games, from the most mid to the most peak. But first, what, I'm already almost at 1,000 subs? I have no idea how this happened. Guys, I just talked into my phone about cool games I like, and now I'm almost monetized. This has all been really exciting for me. I mean, like a lot of people, I've always wanted to be a YouTuber since I was like a kid, but also like a lot of people, I never really took it super seriously. But all these views and subscribers are making me think, hey, you know what? Maybe I should take this seriously. So that's what I'm gonna do. Like, this is the first video with a script written for it, so there's something. Who knows, maybe by next video I'll actually have a microphone. Thank you guys so much for all the support on the last 2 videos. I'm not stopping anytime soon. Alright, so Little Nightmares. There's basically endless things to point to in these games, which makes them absolute cult classics, or at least 2 out of the 3 of them. These games are masterclasses in breathtaking art direction, tension, building interesting environments and puzzles to fill them with. They just absolutely perfect this genre and are many people's favorite games for a multitude of reasons. Reasons which I've made some videos on, which you should probably go watch. But one of the main things that draws people into the franchise and sticks in their minds after playing are the disgustingly unique and iconic enemies which reside in the weird and twisted world of these games. Each enemy serves as a visual representation of some kind of greed or obsession and represent what too much of one thing can do to a person. There's an enemy that fits just about every kind of phobia you might have and matches the description of any horrible disfiguration you could apply to the human frame, making for some of the most terrifying and anxiety-inducing chase scenes and moments that I've experienced in gaming. And I thought, hey, I have a wide range of antagonists to talk about here. Why not rank them? And that is the heart-wrenching tale of how this video came to be. Because, you know, while this franchise includes some of my favorite designs for enemies that have ever been put to gaming, it does also include its fair share of mid. Whether that's just because of lack of screen time or because it's from the 3rd game, characters that are just okay aren't unheard of. You know, I'm probably scaring off a lot of potential viewers that liked the 3rd game by never shutting up about how much I didn't like it, but whatever. The release of that game gave birth to this channel, so not talking about it would be like cutting off my mother or something. Okay, let's just start the tier list. But actually, first, let me just quickly mention the Very Little Nightmares tier. Not including the enemies from Very Little Nightmares in the list isn't meant to be a slight against the game. I actually think the game's really fun and a cool addition to the franchise. Heck, even the enemies are cool. I just thought they weren't compatible and it wouldn't really be fair to put them up against the rest of the cast because of the different gameplay. So I'll do a lightning round really quick and mention the enemies from it for all 7 of the fans of the game out there. The Craftsman, cool. I like his design. It's unique. It's kind of like the Janitor. It's creepy. B tier. Okay, the Butler, really cool. I wish this was in a 3D game because I like his aura. He's weird. He's yeah. A tier. And then the Pretender is good. I think she's a cool, funny final boss. She's not very scary, but yeah, she gets the point across. Good job. She gets a B tier, and that's it. You know, maybe Little Nightmares 3 should have just been Very Little Nightmares remade in 3D. I don't know. Okay, let's actually start the ranking now. That's right, people. There is, in fact, an F tier. Blasphemous, I know. You know, I wish I could say there aren't any characters from these games that are, like, explicitly bad, just good characters who are better than other good ones. But no, there are indeed 3 enemies which have found themselves at the lowest point of this list. The worst of which being... yeah, not much to say here. Nothing to hate about the shoe monster thing, but also nothing to really like about it. It's just nothing. It literally shows up once and then never again. It's never explained. Like, I guess it could be the granny, but that also doesn't really make much sense. It was in Very Little Nightmares. That doesn't count for the list, but I just thought I'd throw it in here. Okay, next. I am a surgeon! I have even less to say about these. They're so minuscule and unmemorable, I was debating whether or not to even include them in this list. They look like the viewers, and they have the mechanic of the Janitor, and there's like one room where there's a lot of them, and it's like the mannequin room, and that's it. Yeah, no, that's okay. The player isn't gonna notice we only have 2 different models for them. Skip. Oh, brother. The Herd is so buns. They do nothing. They are nothing. But unlike the Shoe Monster, they're nothing in a way that makes me mad. Because the Shoe Monster only shows up once. The Herd is present for most of the 3rd game's runtime, and they still just exist to fill the background. They're only big and fat because the guests from the 1st game are big and fat. But it's like night and day between the Herd and the guests, because the Herd acts as a threat exactly once in the whole game. And in that section where it's a threat, it's literally a section stolen from the 2nd game. They're not thought-provoking at all. They're just completely generic. There's nothing that they represent either. They just stand there, or they're like on hook sometimes. They suck. They're like the perfect F tier. They're also the end of the F tier. And you know what comes after F? It's not D, but next is D tier.
There are bugs under your skin.
The ones in F tier were straight up bad. D tier is more just like aggressively mid. None make me super mad, but I expect more from these games. Starting off, we have
Beetle? Yes! Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I think the big beetles are just kind of dumb. I didn't do an amazing job explaining why I think they're dumb in my first video. I just think the concept is a lot less clever or unique than like the leeches from the first game. But really it's the fact that they show up a singular time that weighs them down so much. If they had been in the chapter a few more times and maybe implemented in some clever ways, it would have shot them up to like C or even B tier and improved that entire chapter. But as it stands, it's just really boring. I don't know what the point of coming up with a unique mechanic for them was when you're only going to have them attack you once. Lock in. The plant things are all right. I like the death animation. Again, it's really just the lack of screen time. You see them once to introduce them, and then like you see them again in this one kind of really bad puzzle. Because there's no way you'd understand it on the first try. Like, you only understand what you're supposed to do after it's already killed you once. I guess that's the definition of trial and error, but the death will just make you go, oh, okay. And then it'll set you back like a minute. I don't know about it. They remind me of the Little Shop of Horrors plant. Yep. The little candy beetles, or I guess candy weevils, they're slightly higher than the rest of C tier because I think they're kind of funny. The animations associated with them are actually really well done. They're not exactly threatening, but they look gross. Like when they start crawling onto you, but you kind of move out of the way and then they jump off. It's fun. The mechanic of an enemy that doesn't like the light isn't very unique. I mean, it's the third time an enemy has had it in this franchise, but nothing else really looks like the candy weevils, and they give what is probably the single most generic chapter in all of these games at least a little something special, but not special enough to boost it into C tier. Speaking of which, get ready because we're about to take a trip through Mid-City. Some of the inclusions on C tier may shock you because of how iconic they are to the franchise, and it doesn't necessarily mean I don't like them. They just suffer from some of the same issues as the lower tiers, not being prevalent enough mostly. Some of the inclusions are actually just whatever though, such as...
Why? Because of the eyeball.
Because of the eyeball, I see.
While the flesh walls aren't exactly their own enemy like the others on this list are, more so serving as a piece of the environment which can kill you, they do show up frequently enough and are memorable enough that I think they warrant a placement. They look repulsive as they pour out of the cracks they make in the walls and ceiling, and all of the animations involving them are awesomely disgusting. You think you've reached maximum grossness as they chase you down the hall, and then you wake up sitting in an ocean of them. I think they serve as a better explanation to the eyes you see everywhere than the big baby does, but it wouldn't be fair to the ranking if I placed them any higher.
Yo ass is like an exotic cricket.
Yeah, I don't like this enemy. She represents everything I don't like about the third game. She's the quintessential big, scary kind of person thing with weird limbs that you hide from, but she's just so incredibly uninteresting. I sort of like the reveal that she was rolling around on a wheel before and now she's unhooked from it and she's crawling around. Ooh! Like, that's like the one redeeming quality. But like, they really don't do anything with it. You still just run and hide. She doesn't feel like a metaphor for anything, and she doesn't really feel like she's even supervising much. I guess there's cameras around, but man, if you want a cool boss for the candy factory, I don't know, make like a giant candy monster. And the metaphor is that you are what you eat or something. I take it back, definitely don't do that. But yeah, easily my least favorite main enemy of a chapter. I really like the eye from Little Nightmares 1. It's one of the most iconic pieces of imagery associated with the first game. It's basically the logo. However, the puzzles that have to do with it leave a little bit to be desired. For most of them, you can just walk against the wall closest to them and completely skip over the puzzle. I'm really not sure why that's an option. It also never really switches up the format. It's always just hiding behind objects while sneaking from left to right. That being said though, there's really not much that leaves more of an impact than when you're playing the game for the first time and you watch as you step into its line of sight and get turned into stone. It's a lot of people's first death, and for that alone, it deserves to at least be higher than the godforsaken supervisor. Go get like crushed in a hydraulic press or something. Same deal as the eye. The leeches aren't bad at all. They serve as a really good first enemy for the game. Not too threatening, only really requiring you to run from them, but their design is super synonymous with the brand and they're pretty revolting. The way they like drop down from the ceiling or gain speed when the ground is wet, it's really creepy. It's just that given the amazing antagonists they share a game with, it's a little hard for them to stand on their own 2 feet, especially because they don't have feet anymore. Only in the concept art. Whoa. Hey, fun fact about the leeches. Did you know you can kill them by throwing stuff on top of them? They like squish down. Yeah. Ew. I don't know how to feel about the little jester things. They're kind of just the bullies of this game, but they fit the theme of the chapter really well, and I don't know, I do like the mechanic when it comes to killing them. It's one of those things in the third game that works infinitely better if you actually have 2 players, but I literally have never seen someone play the third game with 2 players, so... Guys, I'm starting to think the entirety of the third game maybe shouldn't have relied on you having 2 players. I like the reveal that you're not out of the woods yet after shooting their heads off, and you have a limited amount of time to run from them and smash the decapitated heads before they grab you. That's a cool little system. I wonder how they'll implement it later in the chapter. It only happens once. Why, God, why? Why can't they just throw some of them in, like, one of the 300 empty rooms in this game? There's zero reason why they couldn't just, like, pop out of a barrel or something in the middle of a puzzle. It would be such a fun little surprise, but... no. Whatever, they're on the better side of the third game's enemies, and they're decently creepy, I don't know. Similar to the supervisor, the monster baby kind of just serves to remind me of why the third game wasn't the best. Credit where credit is due though, it's kind of cool how it'll just like shove its massive hand through a wall and try and grab you. The effects of the walls and rooms crumbling around you as it stumbles around trying to reach, it's pretty cool. However, the puzzles involving the baby really just boil down to like hiding behind things so that the eye doesn't turn you into stone. Never seen that before. And like running away from the room behind you falling apart. And it didn't have to be that way. I mean, like, imagine all the cool ways you could have the player hide from an enemy that can literally pick up the room you're in. Why is this whole chapter so dumbed down? The game treats you like a bigger baby than the actual big baby. Not to mention how in the end it just waddles away after like a bunch of birds fly around its head and then you never see it again. Real climactic for the poster child of this game. Great job, guys. I'm also not very worried about it grabbing me because we literally get grabbed once by it and dropped off a building and then we wake up like nothing happened, so yeah, it has a lot of problems, but it's not terrible. I guess I like the holes on its head where hair should be, and its design is fairly cool. You would just think that a 200-foot tall baby would be pretty memorable, but
Shadow loves Latinas.
One of my favorite memories from playing these games for the first time was when I was playing through the final DLC chapter from Little Nightmares 1, and I got stuck on the segment with the Shadow Kids for like a month. I don't know what it was about this part that made it so horrifying for me. I think maybe how massive and dark the room is paired with the flashlight mechanics that weren't as good as they are in the second game yet worked really well to just make me feel totally vulnerable. It really feels like these things can just jump out of any shelf or crevice and scare the crap out of you at any moment. The sound they make when they dash at you makes me sweat. Their design is pretty simple, but it's fun and there's some serious tension as you're trying to move a chair or complete a puzzle and these things just won't stop coming at you. Their inclusion really wakes you up again after an hour of some really difficult puzzles and 2 chapters which aren't the highlight of the series. They definitely aren't the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the game, but I'm really glad they're here and I'm super nostalgic for them, which is why they sit comfortably at the top of C tier. Okay, now for some additions to the roster that are actually just good.
Stop!
At this point in the list, I've already knocked out any enemy that has something weighing it down or is just whatever. The bar has been set at pretty good, and the rest of the enemies will just improve from there. Starting off B tier, I'm going with... Hey, Bloodborne! Go get him! Out of all the enemies from the third game, I think the Kin feels most like something that would have come out of one of the other games. I'm counting the Kin himself and his little hand puppet guy as one enemy, since you never only see one of them. I mean, they're literally attached to one another. Some of the animations are really funny and radiate with that same silly yet creepy energy that the enemies in the other games had. Like when the little hand guy clinks his food bowl on the counter when he wants more meat slop cut straight from a rotting member of the herd. It's so gross and goofy, I love it. And there's some genuine tension whenever the hand spots you and now it's just somewhere in the room coming straight for you. The Kin himself has a little less going for him, but I like his face, it's pretty ugly. I think a better structure for this segment would have been to have him jump out and catch you first rather than after already meeting him. And now you're stuck in a cage and you have to escape the cage, but now you're in the lion's den. Oh, better watch out. It also might have helped to not have the cage be extremely easy to escape from. That didn't really help to make me scared of him. I also don't feel super scared of getting caught by him because I know he'll just put me in a cage and then make me juggle. That's better than getting shoved down a throat, I guess. This one part where he kills a gnome kind of pisses me off because, like, is that the best you could do to make me take him seriously? Yeah, he's definitely not free of issues, but I don't know, he's kind of a diamond in the rough when it comes to this game. So yeah, he just barely made it out of C tier.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto.
Still not gonna pretend I really have any clue who this character actually is. I refuse to actually do research about it out of spite. And you know, if this game was good, maybe it would have, I don't know, made me interested in knowing more and listening to the podcast, but you know. For what it's worth, I actually think this enemy's really cool. The concept of a massive enemy that's constantly crashing through walls and destroying everything around it to get to you it's done a lot better here than in the baby chapter, in my opinion. The initial reveal of it is done very well, I think. I remember seeing this massive, long, bending thing strung between the room I was in and the next one, and thinking it was like a giant snake or something, but then seeing that there was a foot attached to the end of it and being pretty stunned. I really like the fact that we never actually see what all these limbs are attached to. It creates even more ambiguity about what the heck this thing actually is. Is it a part of the building? Is it even real? I don't know, but it works for me. I like the giant hands with the eyes on them. I like the face somewhat. I don't know, the head by itself is not super threatening, but then it starts sliding towards you, and it's pretty good. I think it's funny how after we've defeated it and we see its giant body under a pile of rubble, its like hand twitches a little as we walk by. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like a teaser that it's not actually dead, but I don't know, there's some real tension as the hands desperately try to crush you. It's a memorable and serviceable final boss. I just kind of wish it made more sense or could be understood a little better through the game alone.
What's good, Granny?
The Granny is a really unique character. I love any enemy based in water, which is part of the reason I love Inside so much. I don't think I have thalassophobia, but man, not knowing what's directly under your feet is horrifying. I really like how the chapter is entirely dedicated to her and how the chapter starts off in a place we've seen before, the Maw, but this time instead of making our way to the top of it, we descend deeper into it, and an entire new environment is revealed to have been there all along. It's really anxiety-inducing trying to swim to the next floating object before she grabs you and yanks you down into the depths. However, the sections with her do feel a little one-note after a while, and while not knowing what she looks like lets your imagination go wild wondering what it could be that's hunting you from below, it does mean that you only truly see her one time, and that's right before she dies. And unfortunately, despite her cool mechanics, she doesn't really look super unique. I think I like her better as a giant scary hand rising from the murky water. Still really cool and strange though. I just wish the DLC chapters had created more characters exclusive to it. The living hands are iconic. They're an amazing addition to the chapter and to the game. They fit the theme of these games perfectly. I like that they're an extension of the mannequin enemy, literally being a part of them cut off, but also totally their own thing. It's really nerve-wracking jumping around them as they try to pounce onto you. And just when you think you've escaped it by climbing up some shelves, it starts to climb up the same shelves you did, and then it runs through the vents with you. My heart rate goes through the roof waiting for it to pop out of one of the little piles of body parts to try and strangle you. And then the fights with them, while not anything too special in terms of gameplay, work well to give you a feeling of accomplishment. And it's such a fun little detail that you can continue to squish them after they're already dead. I love that they knew players would do that. Remember when these games had love poured into them? A great, really disturbing enemy.
Shrivel up and become raisins.
The entire chapter with the viewers is really underrated in my opinion. There are some genuinely good jump scares with them, and they inhabit some of my favorite environments. I really like their designs, with the only real contortment being that their faces are shriveled up like raisins, which makes sense because of what they're obsessed with. I like to imagine that this is what normal people look like in this universe, minus the wrinkled faces. I don't just think everyone is fat based on the first game. I also really like the guttural and unnatural sounds they make. They help to make them feel even more menacing. All the puzzles involving them and the TVs are really fun to go through. They help a chapter primarily filled with puzzles not drag at all. I love the one part where one walks directly off a building to try to get to another TV. It's hilariously unexpected. I also really like this huge chase in the supermarket. It really makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. They're just an awesome tool to use in puzzles, and they're a very entertaining enemy.
He looking like he got a dump truck or a full diaper.
The Doctor might be a little lower on the tier list than some of you were expecting, but I promise I still really like it. I was all over the marketing for the second game before it released, so I basically got spoiled for everything before I played. Everything except the Doctor, because it was hardly in the trailers. Which sort of makes me think the Doctor was a bit of a last-minute addition. That, as well as the sometimes pretty glitchy gameplay. There's a lot of times where he'll just go straight through walls to reach you from like ridiculous distances, or in places he definitely shouldn't be able to reach. Still though, I was pleasantly surprised the first time we see him. He's so hideous in all the right ways. I love his stupid face. It looks like a cookie cutter shark or something. I love his pained gasping for air and the hyperventilating. He's so disgusting. It's a pretty quirky concept, having to be absolutely massive but still be able to crawl on the ceilings. I like that it doesn't really make any sense at all, but it doesn't really matter to the story. It's just something to make him unique and cool. His death is also foreshadowed well and feels pretty fitting for what he is. I really wish a lot of the concept art for him and this whole chapter had been implemented, but you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit, unless what you got was 3 hours long and $40. The Doctor's a great final boss for the chapter.
She kinda bad though.
Yeah, I might get hate for not having the lady in at least A tier, but I'm sorry, I just don't think she quite made it there. Without the DLC chapters, the lady would have probably ended up closer to like D tier. She really only has like 3 minutes of screen time in the base game. They are some of the best 3 minutes in the game though. I think she has just the right amount of ambiguity as to who she actually is. The paintings around the maw, the secret rooms which give you clues about her, the entire ending of the game. It all leaves a lot of room for theories about her origin, and I think she's really interesting. Her design is juxtaposed really well with everything we've seen in the game up to this point, and it's clear she's important to the overarching narrative at play here. But really, it's the final chapter of The Secrets of the Maw that made me like her so much. The Residence DLC chapter takes everything the last few minutes of the base game teases about the lady and expands upon it, while creating even more mysteries along the way. Even more paintings, weird statues, the glimpse we catch of her face in the mirror. I mean, seriously, who is this woman? But my frustration from not knowing much about her is only because I really wish I did, not that the game failed to make me care. It's terrifying running through pitch black rooms, fully aware that any one of the mannequins around you could be her. And then the final reveal that the lady is the one creating the gnomes, turning poor innocent children into them. And then coming to the realization that the boy we've been playing as all along is the gnome who Six ruthlessly devours in the base game. It's so good. She's a stellar final boss for the game and is one of the franchise's main draws for theory crafters. That being said, greatness is kind of taken for granted among these enemies, and she doesn't show up quite enough for her to be ranked next to the rest of the enemies in the list, which is why she tops off B tier. And do you know what the first letter of lady is? It's L. And since she's more of a W than an L, do you know what the second letter of lady is? The letter was A. There's going to be a lot less complaining from this point forward and a lot more glazing. We're diving headfirst into some of the biggest bangers known to horror gaming, and trust me, I know bangers. The final 9 entries in the ranking are all icons, and I think you knew going into the video that most of these guys would end up where they are. However, you still don't know what order they'll be in, so let's start off A tier with...
Get me fatter.
The guests are another good example of the quintessential enemy of these games, except they aren't following a formula, they invented the formula. They're one of the first things that comes to mind when you think of the franchise. A tsunami of disturbingly obese people, gorging themselves with anything that could possibly be considered edible around them, shoving it down their gullets without a second thought, and stampeding through anything in their way once they spot you, and you become the hottest thing on the menu. They have an instantly memorable introduction, seeing them sweep into the gaping mouth of the maw from the outside, swallowed and never to be seen or heard from again. It's never explicitly said, but I'm pretty sure all the meat we see in this game is stripped directly from their inflated corpses, adding a whole nother layer of irony to the whole production. Their designs are legendary and fit perfectly in the environment they infest. One of the most iconic chase scenes in any of these games is at the end of their chapter. After they start pulling out of the screen walls which somehow held all of their weight, and they charge after you, piling on top of each other in order to trample you, becoming one mass of bloated, disgusting souls, each with the only goal of inhaling any chunk of meat they can get their grubby hands on. They're awesomely grotesque, and their whole section of this game is such a classic. My only complaint is wishing there were more unique models for them. You can feel them squeezing every last drop out of the 5 or 6 they have. Still though, a really great enemy. You're sure to lose your appetite running from these things. I think the concept of the Thin Man is so freaking cool. If you haven't already, I highly encourage flipping through the concept art for this game. Oh my god, I wish this stuff had been in the final version of the game. Seeing him in a train standing in place as it flies by, or smoke billowing out of his head as he lingers in the ruins of the Pale City, it's so epic. But his implementation in the game is really sick too. His design is very unsettling, being long in height rather than width. I love his aura. Whether it's sat in his chair, drowning in neon glowing pink, or when he crashes through a television screen and slowly stalks you through twisting halls and abandoned trains. He feels so inevitable as he calmly steps towards you. For someone moving so slow, there's a ridiculous amount of tension. I also think he's one of the most intriguing characters story-wise, from the possibility of him being the hanging man from the first game and his connection to the lady, to his ties with the signal tower in Mono. The reveal that for the entirety of the second game we're chasing ourselves, left to rot in the place he journeyed to in order to save his friend, and after being brutally betrayed by that friend, is mind-boggling. I don't know where he got the hat from after sitting in a chair and not moving for years, but whatever, the cutscene is dope. It provides a whole new perspective when you replay the game, viewing his entire segment as a desperate attempt to stop his younger self from repeating his mistakes. I just think he's so tough and unique compared to everything else in the series. I want to steal the concept of him for my own story, but I know I can't. Not the best the game has to offer, but one of my personal favorites. If you think the Thin Man reveal is crazy, just wait until you walk into 6's room in the signal tower and get slapped in the face by the reveal that your guiding light in this story just got morphed into exactly what you've been trying to escape all along. Or at least it would have been an insane reveal if I hadn't been spoiled for it an hour after the game came out. Screw YouTubers who upload the full gameplay of a game the hour it comes out, and especially the ones who put the final boss of the game in the freaking thumbnail. I feel like everyone got spoiled for her, which really sucks, but that's not the game's fault. It's okay, I just won't ever open my phone before completing a game all the way through ever again. Back on track though, her design is really great. I think judging by its similarities, it's meant to be a callback to the janitor, which, no spoilers for the rest of the list, but is perfectly fitting considering 6 and the janitor are one of the best visual pairings these games have to offer. Her wrinkled and twisted figure and her exaggerated hood over her head of lanky and probably unwashed hair is exactly what I would hope a monster version of 6 would look like. Her sound design is very well done too. Props to whoever recorded her screeching and cries. You totally sold her believability as this confused creature in constant agony. Monster 6 really ties this whole game together and is an essential piece in creating one of the best final chapters of a game I've ever played. The ending of the third game wants to be this so bad, but it's not even close. It's entertaining, emotional, and masterfully crafted.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting.
I couldn't have conjured up a better introduction to the second game than with the Hunter's Wood. Starting off the game by dropping us in a completely unfamiliar environment was a great call. Elements of Nature was previously uncharted water in this franchise, and it's done amazingly well. The graphics in this section are probably the best Little Nightmares has to offer. But the forest is nothing without the skilled hunter who resides in it. The hunter is such a great enemy. Story-wise, there's a lot that could be going on here, and there's a lot hinted to about his mysterious profession, but nothing's confirmed. Him having stuffing pouring out of the tears in his clothing and skin, the same stuffing that we see his taxidermy planted with, implies there's something weird going on under the mask, and man, I wish I knew what it was. His gameplay is really distinct, being one of the first and only enemies which can hunt you from a distance using his shotgun. It's a pretty dark deviation for the franchise. You can really just have these two kids get blown to pieces in cold blood. It also makes his death really satisfying. He was asking for this to happen. He's an all-around really great villain. Similar to the Doctor, there's some concept art for this level that definitely should have been implemented, but what we got was still totally awesome.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
The mannequin segment of the hospital level is easily the scariest thing that has come out of the franchise. The section is surprisingly short, but you don't even realize it because of how huge of an impact it leaves on you. It's genuinely terrifying trying to outrun these things. They're designed brilliantly. They're unnerving, they're uncanny, and the glitchy and choppy animation that these games are known for, I think it works the best with the mannequins. It makes them feel so unnatural, and it also creates a sort of stop motion effect, which works really well considering what these things are made out of. That being poorly stitched together pieces of bodies. Real and fake ones. They're hodgepodges of poor souls in constant agony and forever lost in the never-ending labyrinth that is the hospital. The gameplay here is a kind of red light, green light using your flashlight, and man, it really works to make you feel tiny and powerless. Having the only thing between your life and being strangled or held in place for eternity be a crummy flashlight. I love absolutely everything about the mannequins. I only wish their section was 5 times longer. They're such a creative enemy, and I can't imagine the game without them. Finishing off A tier, I'm going with the bullies. You might be thinking, what? How is a secondary enemy this high on the tier list? But trust me, big things come in small packages. I'm so happy the bullies are introduced so early in this game, because once you encounter them and realize the quality of enemy this game has to offer, there's no way anyone would stop playing here. The concept of them is genius. It's a school. Of course there's gonna be little brats running around, but the simple idea of having them be made out of ceramic is a stroke of genius and propels them so far. There's nothing more satisfying than smashing their heads in with a hammer, something they absolutely couldn't do if they were anything other than pottery. And it also leads you to wonder how alive they even were to begin with. They totally sell how maniacal and destructive they are. It's clear you and them are in sort of the same boat. You're both trapped in this school, both desperately wanting to be anywhere other than under the teacher's watch. But you don't feel any sympathy for them because they don't feel any sympathy towards you. You're just their new plaything, something to take their anger out on. And they do not hold back when it comes to punishing whoever's lower than them on the food chain. Hell, look at the lunchroom. It's an absolute free-for-all when the teacher isn't around. It's hilarious how psychotic these kids are. From the traps they set up for us, which get me every time, to even how they treat each other. And they do an amazing job reintroducing the same concept to us. You get killed by their traps, you kill them with their own traps, you avoid them and the teacher at the same time, you kill one tied to a rope, you can hide among them using their heads, you distract them. They just keep building upon the same concept with new ways to implement them, and each new thing is cooler than the last. They're a huge piece of what makes the school level the highlight of the series in my opinion. And again, I can't see this game without these little rascals. But with the bullies, only one tier remains. It's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for the best of the best. The absolute kings of Little Nightmares, and the queen. Yeah, I'm sure you all saw these coming. My love for these few characters isn't exactly unique, but without these final three's existence, I don't know if these games would have stuck out so much to me all this time. These are the Infinity Stones of the franchise. The first of which, or I guess the first two, being...
Let him cook now! Let him cook!
I'm counting the twin chefs as one enemy since they're together most of the time and functionally they're the same enemy. If I had ranked them separately, they probably would have just been next to each other anyway. If you don't like that, then sue me. They're arguably the poster child for the first game, if that title doesn't go to another inclusion later on the S tier. It's the janitor. You already knew it was the janitor. These guys are one of the first things that comes to mind when you picture the game. If there exists an image of Six in her yellow raincoat, the chefs usually aren't far behind. They are disturbing looking. The one's hamburger face and the other's fish lips burn into your retinas with how grotesque they are. Their designs are so rooted in this game's art style and uniqueness that I feel like they've become the base for any enemy that has come after. They play their roles so perfectly, as they cough all over the raw meats they prepare and rub their greasy sausage fingers across any and every surface around them. The music and grunts they make once they spot you are some of the most anxiety-inducing sounds I've ever heard. My first time running back through the main kitchen with the key and trying to open the door, praying the one chef doesn't hear the pitter-patter of my feet, is probably one of the most tense moments I've felt in gaming. And there's so many little hints at something bigger going on here, such as the chefs lifting their faces and revealing that they're actually wearing masks, and wondering what on earth the giant slabs of meat could actually be, and then putting two and two together and realizing the guests are probably getting served to each other and getting their skin peeled and turned into masks. It's all so messed up, and it does so well to make you feel sick and trapped. I threw a party the first time I beat this level, just because of how amazing it felt to be free of those claustrophobic and nauseating kitchens. I'll remember the twin chefs when I'm 80 years old.
I'm blind in my left eye. I don't see much of nothing.
What is there to even say about the janitor that hasn't already been echoed since 2016? He's the living embodiment of all things Little Nightmares. The art style, the meaning behind it, the gameplay and puzzles, the sound design and mechanics, he's got it all. He was definitely the right choice for the first main enemy of the game, because like I said for the bullies, there's no way anyone wouldn't complete the whole game after getting a glimpse at how amazing the enemies are. I've said this word probably 30 times already, but he just screams the word iconic. The incredibly animated and terrifying long arms, his face, which is not only spectacularly scary, but also gives him his main quirk, being that he can't see but can hear even the slightest creak of the floorboards. As well as his signature Little Nightmares silliness, he's very endearing despite his... well, everything. Because for all the booty-clenching moments involving him, there's also the occasional moment that'll warm your heart in a gross but cute way. Like when you turn on his favorite show and he waddles over to hug the TV, getting as close to this other world as possible. Maybe cooking was his real passion, I don't know. But that's totally a possibility and it's something to think about. His design and the routines you watch him go through are also creative and clever, and it keeps you thinking about him long after you slice his arms clean off. Sorry, dude. Plus, his name is Roger. That's adorable. The janitor is brilliance incarnate, but he was just shy of first place, losing out to the one, the only... I didn't watch any other people's rankings before making this video to avoid bias and having my opinion swayed, but I would be shocked if the teacher was anywhere lower than first place on any list. Her, along with the bullies, create a chapter that was so incredible I thought I might have been dreaming the first time I played it. From the first glimpse at her mechanic, being her ability to stretch her neck seemingly infinitely, to her final chase scene in which she follows you headfirst through a vent, previously safe havens for the player, desperately trying to reach you. The initial reveal of her ability is incredible. As if her blank expression and unblinking eyes weren't already enough to give you nightmares, you realize Oh, so there's like nowhere I can go that's safe. Even the bullies are terrified of her. I love the section on the ceiling boards, the section in the library, which genuinely jump scared me a few times. I like the really stressful piano puzzle. I just like everything. She's even got that goofy factor I love. Like, does she even know what the lunchroom looks like, or has that room just been totally lost to the bullies? Her sound design is also excellent. The crackling and bending of each muscle in her neck as it unhooks from the collar is repulsive. And her screeches are blood-curdling, making you sink into your couch as you play. The teacher is just everything the supervisor wishes she was. I did not have to think very hard about where she'd land on the ranking. And in my opinion, she's an essential part of my favorite game in the series, and the best enemy the series has to offer. Well, that's the ranking. Even the enemies who landed on the very bottom of the list still have a special place in my heart. Really, anything under the Little Nightmares umbrella clicks with me. There are infinite words to describe the feelings these games give me, and I don't think I'd be as big of a gamer if I hadn't grown up with them. The characters these games brought to the table have become some of the biggest inspirations for my own works, and I'll always regard this franchise as one of the all-time greats. I had a really fun time making this video. I really wanted every aspect of it to improve on my last few vids, which is a goal I'm setting for myself. Ranking videos just comes naturally to me. It's a format I've always thought was super entertaining, and I'm now finding out is also really fun to make too. I hope you guys had as good of a time with it as I did, and thank you again for all the love and support on the channel. If you liked what you saw, there's always my previous 2 videos and more on the way. A like would be epic, a comment would be dope, and a subscription would be awesome sauce. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.